Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com. I've been going through, I was doing random reviews from the overflow room. So here I am in the overflow room. And there's a lot of stuff that I have kicking around here that I haven't had a chance to talk about yet. So I was looking at that. There's the back wall here, that's all stuff I need to catalog and discuss, whereas this wall is all alphabetized. And then there's the front wall here, that shelf there behind the gong. There it is, which also has stuff I haven't had a chance to quite get to. Some of it I've reviewed already and just put away there before filing it permanently. And some of it is, it's just there. And I'm looking at these things and trying to figure out what I've discussed and what I haven't discussed, and catching up with some of these things that have been kicking around for a few years. And in the middle of all of that, I moved from Brooklyn to here, to my new digs, and had all this built out, and I shoved everything away without worrying about whether it was in a particular order. So there's just a lot of stuff kicking around. And one of the things that is kicking, and I've talked about some of these performances, but not all of them, is this one, Michelangeli's complete Debussy recordings on Deutsche Grammophon. And this is the BluRay version, along with there's 3 discs. You've got normal CD here, flaps down like this. So you've got your normal CDs on, there's the normal CD, and then you have the booklet thing here. Look at that staying put. Oh, there it goes. And then you've got the other CD, and then you've got the BluRay that has everything on it. If you have BluRay, which I don't, bully for you, enjoy it that way. I don't understand why people who have BluRay would want to buy 2 regular discs. You just get the BluRay, right? And it could be cheaper. And for those of you who have regular discs, why do you need the BluRay? The whole concept eludes me. But apparently, they were doing it for a while. I don't know if they still are. The point is, these are astounding performances. And I do want to talk about the Preludes particularly, because I've discussed the disc that had the Image 1 and 2 in the Children's Corner. The Children's Corner was the work that got me into Debussy and made me want to play the piano. And I practiced and learned to play Children's Corner, the easy parts. Then I heard this one and I said, screw it. And I gave up playing the piano. That was that. It's just an astoundingly fabulous performance. But the Preludes, when I was growing up, I have to just tell you a story. The Michelangeli Preludes Book 1, which were recorded in 1978, or came out then, were considered the ne plus ultra of Debussy pianism, and the logical successor to Walter Gieseking, who was an incredible piano colorist and whose Debussy recordings were the reference, but they were in mono and pretty grotty sound, not very well recorded mono necessarily. They're not terrible, but they're not fabulous. And so Michelangeli, who was a chord guy, if ever there was one, every chord is perfectly balanced. His tone was crystalline and pure and just astounding. And that first set of Preludes came out, and I remember another piece I always wanted to play because it was kind of easy, was the Engulfed Cathedral, the Cathédrale Engloutie, because it's just chords up and down the keyboard. Initially, anyway, it's da 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 bong da 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 da. Yeah, it's wonderful, just parallel chords, There are some tougher parts in it later when it gets, going on the left hand and some other things on top. But basically, the whole work is surprisingly straightforward. So I learned to play it, and I enjoyed it enormously. And then, of course, I heard this, and it was totally disheartening. But it was an astoundingly beautiful set of the Preludes Book 1. Really, really wonderful. And then, of course, there was the disc of Children's Corner and the Image. Disc 2 didn't come out until 10 years later. And it was very interesting to see how it was received, because by then, digital recordings had happened. It was 1988. And the sonics were perceived as somewhat hard and unyielding. I didn't think they were bad at all. I had a nice warm stereo system and everything sounded good on it, so it was fine with me. And the playing was just as fabulous. The performances were every bit as accomplished, but there had been a lot more Debussy in the meantime. Other people and some younger artists and whatnot. Michelangeli was no longer the acme of perfection that he had been in 1978. And I was very, very interested to see the different reception that the two sets of preludes got. I found them equally astounding and marvelous, and I enjoyed them just as much. But, you had Zoltan Kocis coming and some of these other people who were just fantastic Debussy pianists. And, Yuri Egorov and some of these guys, they were great. Paul Jacobs, you can make your own list. So there was real competition. And it really was, a question of taste to see, who you preferred in that repertoire. But for what he did, there was virtually nobody who could compare with Michelangeli. And just as a historian, which is what I was then, in 1978, I was a junior in high school. By 1988, I'd finished grad school. And had a couple of master's degrees in European cultural history, which was my thing, and had written, term papers on Hindemith and Orientalism and Ravel and French music and things like that. So, not term papers, master's theses, pardon me. And, so I had a couple of degrees, and I was looking at it sort of through a historical lens just to see what the reception was. That's called reception history in the historical biz, how things get received. And I was quite interested in the difference between the 1978 and 1988 Debussy Preludes recordings. But having this come out, that is, brought all of this back to me. And this was issued in 2020, just in time for COVID to pop up a few years later and me to have to move and all this other, commotion. So I'm very happy, to go back and look at this. And if you haven't heard these recordings, you really owe it to yourself to listen to them. By now, they're almost historically legendary. And there's been so much water under the bridge since then that it's almost impossible to, recapture the original excitement that these performances, inspired in music listeners, because they represented a level of performance quality and perfectionism that was, for its time, really, really quite amazing. And it's held up awfully well, I think. I mean, you may like or dislike Michelangeli for his almost insane, perfectionism and attention to detail. He never sounds fussy. He doesn't. He's not mannered in any way. He creates a sonority, a piano sonority that is really almost electronic. It's just so accurate all the time. And for some reason, some people find it off-putting. I find it fascinating and very idiomatic, very, very much in keeping with what I think Debussy was after in these pieces. An instrument without hammers, an instrument that is a pure, color device, just about. And it's extraordinary. These are just extraordinary performances, and I urge you to hear them. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.